Hello, brother.
Hey, brother.
I have a question for you on this eve of Hallow Eve.
Yes, for the blank versus blank Halloween special.
Yes. So the question is, what scares you?
What scares me? What gives
What?
me the heebie-jeebies?
Yeah. So what in the political world or the society, something going on in the country or the world, what keeps you up at night? What are you most terrified of?
Oh, the thing I'm most terrified. Oh,
Okay. You, you stepped
yeah,
on a
Kamala Harris becoming president. That's what scares me the most.
now you say that and you're smiling. Are you really, does that really scare you or
Kamala Harris as president?
yes?
Holy smokes, yes. She's like the most inept person I think I've ever seen in politics. She
Well, that would be a long list of people, but she's at the top of your list, huh?
well, she is in the driver's seat to become the next president.
Yeah.
I'm praying every night for Joe Biden's health that he'll keep going because she's a disaster. She's a disaster. She's the most liberal senator before she got to be vice president. She had a terrible campaign and was one of the first people to drop out. Then she got, I think she got selected to be vice president to check off some boxes, and now she's in charge of the border. We've seen a stellar job there. In fact, I don't even know if she's done anything on the border, even though she's the person that's supposed to be in charge of fixing the problem.
So wait a second. You're both scared of what she might do, and also she's inept, so she's can't do anything. So that I'm trying to figure out, are you really scared of that happening? Would a
Oh, yes.
Harris presidency really?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Somebody who is completely incompetent in the driver's seat. That doesn't scare you at all?
It did before 2016, but actually it seemed like the last 4 years were sort of uh, all the scary things that could really have happened over the Trump presidency didn't really happen. A lot of them didn't, some did, because he was his own worst enemy. So yeah, I think there's a level of incompetence that it's like, yes, good. I mean, if you're going to go with the other side, go with the other side really incompetent because they can't get anything really accomplished. What would the worst case would be is somebody that's competent and on the other side, right?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Harris presidency really scares you. Okay.
Yeah. And you? What makes your hair stand up on end?
Well, I don't think, I mean, we've lived through back and forth political footballs over the last, 100 years. And that has largely survived. I mean, things I think in general have gotten perhaps more and more conservative a little bit of the overall over the last few years. I don't mean like media, but I mean like politics and, things like Clinton's 3 strikes you're out, that kind of thing has just sort of pushed our country to more, more incarcerations, more, more brute force trying to control people. And so that's not my worst scares. My worst scares are just really losing the entire democratic system. Every day we see senators that we've just lost all kinds of, just being listening to each other and being courteous, and just the language used at the level of Congress has just been really disturbing. And so I think that what scares me is really losing what the United States, what the democratic system is all about.
Yeah, guess I'm not sure I follow that completely. It sounds like you're saying your fear is the loss of civility or compromise or being able to work across the aisle with each other.
No, no. I think we've been gridlocked for many decades on a lot of things. What I'm afraid of is actually losing the entire democratic process. I mean, if the next elections that we have, if people say we don't believe the vote counters or the people that count the votes or oversee the vote counting decide, no, you weren't counting the votes right, then we basically lose all belief that the election is legitimate, and we don't trust the process. We lose the entire democratic system. I mean, already half the country believes that the last election was rigged or stolen or something was fishy. And there's been no evidence of that, but there's the belief that that's true. And that's what scares me is I have pretty good, I mean, our election system could be made a lot better for certain, but it seems like it's pretty good considering there's been no widespread evidence of any kind of manipulation, but a lot of people believe that.
Yeah. Well, and it's just tag on with that. That's coming from both sides now. I mean, Stacey Abrams still says that her election was stolen. Terry McAuliffe just hired an election lawyer a week before his election.
Well, look, I'm not pointing fingers at people. I'm saying what scares me.
No, and I actually I'm going to agree with you on that. Is a general loss of trust in our institutions is on the rise, and I think that hurts everything that happens if people don't either believe that the system is working for them, or they believe that they're cut out of the system, or they believe that the rich are running the system without them, and they believe that they have no voice and that the whole thing is rigged. I think.
Well, there's multiple parts to that, and
Right,
part of
right.
it, some of them are legitimate. I mean, I think we do have too much money in politics. I don't even understand why there is a thing called a lobbyist. But what is that? That is a person that is paid in order to try to change Congress's mind about something. We have people for that. You don't need to pay somebody to be, take somebody out to eat to try to, so that kind of thing is legitimate. That's not unfounded worries, but
Right.
the idea that we're losing democracy, that's another level. So are you saying, when you say you agree with me, are you saying that that's something that scares you too?
Yes, I will agree with you.
Well, you don't have to agree with me. I'm just asking you, are you scared of that?
Yes.
And
No,
where is
I
it?
concur on all your points there.
But where is it on your list of fears? Is that top? Are you really worried about that upcoming elections? Or is it like climate change? I'm assuming for you that you might be not so fearful of climate change.
No, I would put that up pretty high in my list of legitimate fears.
Climate change?
No.
Oh, okay.
That the failure or the loss of trust in our institutions. And I'll tell you, the Democrats aren't helping when they say they're going to stack the courts or pack the courts, or they're going to get rid of the filibuster so that they can get their agenda through without the other side's input. Doesn't help.
Well, like I said, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just worried about the entire system.
Yep,
And I, I
I will
mean,
join you.
okay. Um, I, I could list a lot of things, including like someone that's playing with the idea of running for president in 2024. Uh, does that worry you? We're talking about Donald J. Trump.
It does some. I think it's counterproductive at this point.
Okay, so counterproductive is different from being like fearing the loss of democracy. Do you don't see that like the election of Donald J. Trump for a second term would really be exasperating the problems of losing our democracy?
No, no, I
No.
don't.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not so much fearful of that. I think that there's enough Republicans that have seen what a Trump candidacy, what a Trump presidency looks like, and they're not interested in doing that for another 4 years.
Yeah, and I'm not terribly worried about it or fearful because I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But that doesn't. I didn't think the first Trump candidacy would turn into a presidency either. So I mean, it could.
Good. Yeah. So what things do you think I would be fearful of? Or is
Well,
it is the question, what do you think I might be fearful of, but I'm not?
well,
Does
if
that
I were
make
going
any
to
sense?
guess what you would be afraid of, I would put things like climate change. Are there things like that that I might guess you would be fearful of, but you're not worried about?
Uh, well, you would be correct. So is that what we're going for?
Well, look, maybe we can talk about that. Why are you not afraid of climate change?
Because I've looked at all the studies, I've looked at all the data, and I've followed the models for the last 2 decades now. And there are so many different variables that they don't understand. The models are getting better, but at the same time, the risks are minimal.
Okay.
And by that, I say that the things that they were most worried about, the rising sea levels, uh, global catastrophes, whole host of things that were predicted have been seriously downgraded and continue to be downgraded to the point where I think that they're really not going to have any significant impact on us at all.
Okay. So you don't have to give us your climate scientist evidence.
Yep.
Just
I
curious.
think in a nutshell, it's way overblown and it's scaremongering without any science behind it.
That seems like a common trope on the right. I've heard the same thing people say about the pandemic. I would assume that you would be fearful of upcoming possible pandemics. This is me guessing what you might be afraid of.
No, I'm not really afraid of that either because we have no control over different viruses and things that may arise. Pandemics are a natural course. They arise periodically. I mean, we've had influenza pandemics, we've had other pandemics through the centuries, and once they're there, you have to prepare for them. But until they're there, we don't know for sure what it's going to entail. So if we had a ton of resources geared up for another COVID-like illness, and then all of a sudden it turns into Ebola, which is transmitted in a totally different way, and the risks are different, we'd still be unprepared. So it's one of those things where it's it's hard to be prepared ahead of time. So you just have to wait until it shows up. So
Yeah.
like
All
I
right.
said,
So,
it's not something that it's like a tornado. You can't lose sleep over it or worry about it. They happen. It'll happen again. It'll come about, and you have to deal with it when it's there.
well, there's a lot of things you can do with building design for tornadoes, for earthquakes. I live in San Francisco. Every building goes through some pretty rigorous design testing, and there are strict standards, and it works. So I presume that I don't know too much about tornado design, but I presume that there are roof structures and ways of building buildings that make it easier to withstand tornadoes. Now, you can't withstand every earthquake, you can't withstand every tornado, but there's a lot of preparation and design and thinking. You can have evacuation plans. Not everything is just about, being able to roll out and say, oh, I've pre-made a vaccine for
Right.
some unknown virus that didn't exist. No, you can't do that, but you
Right.
could have infrastructure, you can have a budget, you can have well, we don't even agree yet on what kind of mandates that would be reasonable. Wearing masks. That seems like a pretty low bar to institute in order to prevent pandemics
Yeah,
that could go through air.
sure. So I'm going to guess something that you would be fearful of is Democrats losing the House and potentially the Senate in 2 years or in the next election. So in a year from now.
No, I mean, that usually happens, right? After the election of one party, especially when you have control of all three parts of government. Usually, the midterm cycles, the party not in power comes back and wins quite a bit more seats in both the House and the Senate.
Yep.
So why would it be? I'd be afraid of that. Shouldn't I be expecting that?
You should.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
But there's not a whole lot of Senate seats that are up. And then I guess I would think that you would also be fearful that someone like Donald Trump might actually be president in 2024.
Well, if you mean like Donald Trump, that really has a complete lack of respect for precedents and, just regards the other side as the enemy, regards free press as the enemy of the people. I think he said that. Isn't that a quote? Yeah, of course. I believe in the freedom of press. I wish we had better press. I'm pretty disappointed with mainstream press. I don't think they hold any politician to the level that we should. And I think there's a tendency to want to sell whatever it is they're selling, newspapers or advertisement time. There's too much focus on, making money rather than being a news organization. And that definitely, drives how you hype up what's going on in today's activities. So yeah, I would say, well, I forget what you suggested I was afraid of, but I'm definitely afraid of belittling all of the institutions that really are at the foundation, at least in my mind, of what the United States is or was. Freedom of press, democracy. There was a time when the Senate was actually a place of great debate. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I think it does. I think there's the potential for it even now, but in the age of social media, I think it's very difficult.
Well, we just need people that can ignore that and do their jobs. But
Yeah.
it's a tough one. You have to be able to ignore money, and you have to be able to ignore the trend of the day and not try to get whatever you want to tweet when you're sitting on the toilet at 3 a.m. to make that be the news event of the day.
I think it brings us full circle back actually to your other point, that the loss of confidence in our institutions, and that is probably a good place to wrap this up.
It is. There are some scary things on our future, but we can hope to stay safe. And at least we are not talking about ghosts and the undead and vampires.
We could. Ooh, it's happy Halloween to all our viewers.
Unfortunately, our fears are much more real.
Yep, they're and probably scarier.
I'm afraid so. Well,
Yeah.
have a happy Halloween.
You as well.
Talk to you later.
Adios.
Bye.